Hey there, anime fan, time for another movie review with me, the Stupid Private. Today I'm looking at the Miyazaki classic, Princess Mononoke. The movie begins with Ashitaka, prince of the Amishi people. One day his village is attacked by a demonic worm monster from the dark forest. Using the ever-reliable shoot it in the face with a bow and arrow until it dies trick, Ashitaka slays the beast, before it can blast his village back to the Stone Age.
To be fair, for the Amishi people, the Stone Age is a fairly short trip.
But he's marked on the arm by the demon before it dies, cursing him to suffer pain and madness, just like the demon, which was once a powerful boar spirit until he was wounded by a mysterious iron ball. Even though Ashitaka saved his whole village from being an all-you-can-eat monster buffet, he's cursed, so he needs to get the hell out of town and never come back.
Gratitude.
So the now dethroned Ashitaka heads out in search of what drove the boar bananas. Along the way, he runs into a suspiciously helpful monk before arriving in a place called Iron Town, which is under the leadership of the charismatic Lady Eboshi. The town is at war with both the spirits of the forest, basically giant talking animals like boars, apes, and wolves, spearheaded by the human princess of the wolf clan known as Princess Mononoke.
Mononoke is not a name, but a general term for spirit or monster.
And some feudal samurai jackhole, a war that will end up claiming the lives of hundreds of humans and forest spirits alike, including the great spirit of the forest himself, which nearly sets off a localized apocalypse. But together, Ashitaka and Princess Mononoke, aka San, save the day by foiling the sinister machinations of the sleazy monk mastermind, Jigo. Princess Mononoke is a great movie, and part of a three-way tie for my favorite Studio Ghibli movie, the other two being Nausicaa and Spirited Away. Let's start by looking at the characters. First off, there's our hero, Ashitaka. He's a good guy with a capital G. In spite of being told he can go drop dead for all they care by everyone he knows, and being slowly consumed by a curse, he's still the most noble SOB in the land of the rising sun. Under most circumstances, this might make him a little dull.
Yeah, maybe. But he's certainly a disarming guy, if you know what I mean.
Don't remind me. But he works for the same reason that Captain America works. He's this virtuous, heroic figure, which really fits the mythic setting. He does have kind of weird taste in girls, though. The first time he sees San, she's covered in blood and tells him to go get bent.
Sounds like love at first sight to me.
Speaking of, let's talk about San. She's kind of the it girl for Studio Ghibli, and I completely understand why. She's an atomic bomb of awesome. This fearless warrior rocks into battle on the back of a giant white wolf, armed with homemade weapons, and wearing a Deku scrub mask, furs, and really stupid-looking 80s earrings. Minor fashion faux pas aside, San has a lot of wolfy qualities. She's suspicious of outsiders and even violent, but it's rooted in a sincere love of her pack. But she also cares about the other forest animals. She's respectful to the boar tribe, and tries to reason with the apes, even though she disagrees with them. Now let's look at the bad guys, starting with Lady Eboshi. She's a complex villainess who leads with methods other than fear. She gains the loyalty of her followers by treating them with respect, and is good at building mutually beneficial relationships. But what makes her the villain is how far she goes beyond what she needs for the success of Irontown. She's deliberately destroying the forest to eliminate the forest spirits, when what she wants, the iron, is in veins under the ground. After their first battle with the boar tribe, Lady Eboshi could have stopped, but she continues to slash and burn anyway, to push the forest spirits out. But Lady Eboshi's a living saint compared to the real villain of the movie, the scheming monk Jigo. Apparently being a monk pays a lot better than you'd think because the little guy can afford an army of mercenaries and hunters to kill the great forest spirit. And why does he want to kill the great forest spirit? So the emperor will give him a metric load of gold for his immortality-granting head.
So much for that vow of poverty.
He even blackmails Lady Eboshi into helping him. But in spite of all that, he's still hard to hate. And that's 100% due to the performance of Billy Bob Thornton, who really changes the role, transforming what should be a slimy, malicious dude who's willing to kill hundreds for his own gain into a guy you can't help but like, just a little. Now let's look at those true neutral powerhouses of the forest. Starting with Akoto, the Great Boar, voiced by Keith Mother David, who sits between Peter Cullen and James Earl Jones in the voice acting hall of awesomeness. His performance infuses Akoto with the power and dignity that a giant centuries-old forest god should have. You really understand his desperation, fear, anger, and pain. And the end of his story is absolutely heartbreaking, seeing a once majestic and powerful being utterly transformed into an entity that can only spread fear, suffering, and death. And it's all summed up in a spectacular scene with San, as she struggles in vain to stop his transformation into a demon, until she's consumed by the curse herself, letting out a last cry of, "I don't want to become a demon."
Oh, you make it sound so unpleasant.
And that brings me to my favorite character, Moro. She's absolutely glorious, majestic, beautiful, and utterly terrifying. She's as much a force of nature as she is a character. Completely without cruelty, but also without pity. Despite her wild nature, she's incredibly cunning. Recognizing the ultimate futility of the boar's strategy, and how terrible Akoto's fate is. But she also has a great deal of motherly care for San. Moro raised her after San's human parents abandoned her in the forest. Physically, Moro is the largest, fastest, and strongest member of the wolf tribe. Add in a mouthful of razor-sharp teeth, and that adds up to one bad wolf queen. Now let's dig into the supporting cast. There are just too many to properly talk about here, but most of them are there to bring some levity to the dire events of the story. Characters like Kuroko the ox driver, his wife Toki, and the goofball captain of the guard Gonza are fun and endearing. The never actually in the movie samurai douchebag Lord Asano is a one-note antagonist. I get the Great Forest Spirit the least as a character. He's not neutral in the conflict. He favors Ashitaka all the while allowing his forest animals to die or become demons. But he never cures Ashi's curse.
He wants the kid alive so he can suffer. What's not to get?
I don't think that's it. Now let's look at the art style. Princess Mononoke is visually stunning. A gorgeous piece of work from beginning to end. The environments are showstoppers. From the fort necessity look of Irontown to the eerie beauty of the Forest Spirit's Grove. And those weird little Kodama guys. They're cute, but freaky. Miyazaki's usual simplified character designs aren't that bad here. Everyone looks great, every character and animal fits the setting, and it's beautiful looking to boot. There are some weird things though, like the ape tribe. Mostly they're only seen at night, and they're these deep one looking darkling things. But then we see them during the day and they're just normal monkeys.
Somewhat disappointing.
Also, Moro and the wolves are too simplified. But maybe it just feels that way because there have been so many great-looking fantasy wolves out there. Oh, and the eeriest sight in the movie is seeing Jigo's men running around in the pelts of giant boars. The way they slither is creepy. Now let's talk plot. The magnificent setting and great characters are buried under a ball of subplots. There are conspiracies to explain, backstory to give,
Extemporaneous bull. Suss out.
and then there's that romance between San and Ashitaka. It would work as a TV show or miniseries, but it's just too much and creates a lot of plot holes. Now let's look at the sound design. The voice acting in Princess Mononoke is just amazing. When it works, it really works. And even when it doesn't work, it still works. In terms of actual music, let's face it, we've got ourselves sort of a quiet movie here. Thematically appropriate music shows up at thematically appropriate times, but that's probably the least impressive aspect of a very impressive movie. Now let's break down the good and the bad in Princess Mononoke, starting with art. The environments are fantastic, the characters fit well in this glorious world, and it's a visual extravaganza. 9 out of 10 for visuals. Music and voices. The music is nothing that'll stay with you, but the voice acting is great, if, unusual. 7 out of 10 for music and voices. Characters. The whole cast are fantastically written, complex, and fully realized. 10 out of 10 for characters. Story. The world and lore of Princess Mononoke are great, but the plot is a bit too much for me. Story gets a 6 out of 10. You can feel the effort that went into this movie. It's thoughtful, clever, and never hits you over the head with its ideas. Intangibles gets an 8 out of 10. So I give Princess Mononoke an overall score of 9 out of 10. If you're interested in more reviews of anime, movies, TV shows, or video games, stop by my channel at StupidPrivate913 on YouTube. Thanks for watching. For more games, anime, manga, electronics, and stuff, visit the Games blog.
Hey kids, today's show is brought to you by the letter 4 and the number potato! I'm a stupid private.